Have you tried it? Have you tried to live joyfully by your own strength? Have you tried to just muster it by your own capacity? Or maybe by your own apathy? I know for me at times the temptation can be like, if I just don't have to care about those things, because there's just so much brokenness in the world. There's genocides and there's wars, and in our own city, like I can't go down the street without seeing like the trauma and the brokenness. Maybe you feel fatigued. Maybe you feel like you don't have anything to do except simply survive apart from God's presence. So can you relate? The thing that's interesting about this is Paul never gives us directives to try to solve our life and our sorrow and our struggle by ourselves. Like, this is not a gospel just for you or for me. This is good news for us. Meaning we need each other to hold one another up with that mindset of Christ, to choose joy and to believe in faith even for us when we don't have it, to be the joy of Christ with us. And to be a follower of Jesus means that we will think differently about things and about the world. There is a deliberate decision that in spite of what we feel, in spite of what we might think, that we can embrace a new mindset. N.T. Wright, theologian, puts it like this. He says that the mindset of Christ is a pattern of thinking that belongs to you and to me, to us, because we belong to the Messiah. You are not your own. I am not my own. So my feelings can't override reality. And reality in its most true form is a man named Jesus. And we get to interpret reality, reinterpret reality by laying ourselves before his feet and saying, what do you want me to know about this? How do you want me to see this? What truth would you tell me otherwise? But this Jesus, who is better than expected, he went from up higher than all those other false gods and spirits and powers, and he emptied himself and he became lower than even us. That's who we're talking about, which is the greatest news ever, because that's a real deal God. That's a God who came for us and is coming for us again. Verse 8 goes on and explains how loving this Jesus is. This is a God who didn't sit at a distance and say, get your stuff together and then you can come to me. This is a God who said, I'm going to become less than you so that I can experience the fullness of your pain, that I can raise you out of it. The joy of the Lord is our strength. And some of you right now in this Advent season, I will not sanitize it. You are waiting for the joy of the Lord to become your strength again. And I want to tell you, by looking at Jesus, if you don't hear anything else I say, look at Jesus. Look at Jesus and how he emptied himself for the joy set before him, that you might have joy in life to the fullest in him. Look at Jesus, who for the joy set before him emptied himself that you might have life and joy in him for eternity. Friends, this is the joy of the Lord that can be our strength, regardless of our circumstances. This joy comes to serve, not to be served. And Henry Nouwen describes it like this. He says, joy does not simply happen to us. Many of us are kind of just like hoping that we get joy somehow. But rather, we have to choose joy and keep choosing it every day. That is an exercise in faith. And what I know is that when you put your faith in Jesus, you will grow in trust and you will grow in joy. A few other benefits that we get from choosing joy are that we can get joy in God's path, even if it's not the path that we would have chose for ourselves. Even if God is picking up the scraps from a path that you wouldn't have chosen. Acts 2 says this, you have made known to me the paths of life, and you will fill me with joy in your presence. You have made known to me the path of life. This is what it was quoting, Psalm 16. In your presence there is fullness of joy. At your right hand are pleasures forevermore. Somehow on this path that is not up and to the right, but is constantly like weaving and bobbing and broken and hurting and sad and sorrowful and yet hopeful and beautiful. God's joy is pleasure forevermore as we choose to walk with him on that path.